Yet again, we are live from the Fastport Studios in good old Crescent City. It's Road Gang Radio with your host and one-of-a-kind, truck-loving, fun-having Jimmy Mack on Highway to Health, my brother.
Part due, as it were. We're doing it. We're doing Highway to Health. We're actually making it happen with Lizzy Mathis, founder of the Cool Mom Co. Cool Mom Company, where she shares mom-friendly recipes, lifestyle tips, family design inspirations. Lizzy's got a passion for making family life easier, offering engaging content, including food reviews, kitchen hacks, meal prep ideas. Hey, guys, by the way, even if you don't have a family, this kind of stuff really is groovy and helps out a lot for what you're trying to do. Celebrating her journey as a mother of three, what Lizzy's doing is connecting her audience through relatable experiences and practical advice. Oh, by the way, she also hosts a podcast, so along with hearing me and her talk here, you can hear her talk there as well, providing a platform for discussions on motherhood, wellness, and creativity. May I recommend you guys go to coolmom.co. You can also find her on the gram of Insta at Lizzy Mathis, and as well on the gram of Insta at the Cool Mom Co. Hey, Lizzy, welcome. Good morning, and how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I don't, like I said, I don't have a complaint in the world these days. I mean, you know, it's been kind of spectacular over here in Nemo country. A lot of people are, you know, kind of settling into the summer. The 4th of July has kind of gone by, but people are always looking for the way they can kind of hack their way through, you know, parenthood, taking care of the kids. And that's one of the biggest focuses you have. You're looking at actually making sure people continue to do their jobs as parents while taking the stress off of doing their jobs as parents, right?
That's right. You said it all. You know, it's all about, as parents, we feel hectic a lot. We feel overwhelmed, chaotic. You're talking, we're working. We're trying to, you know, advise our kids the best we can, provide for our kids the best we can. But with all that comes chaos, as we all know. And so we have to make sure to keep ourselves healthy and well, you know, as much as possible, because that's the only way we're going to be able to provide for them.
And let's kind of talk about that as well, because, you know, there's a lot of travel that goes on over the summertime. There is, you know, even today, there are people who think that the days of the kids going outdoors and being outdoors for long, extended periods of time is kind of done. But the truth of the matter is the fact that there are plenty of parents still having those things where the kids spend a lot of time out there, burning up calories, exhausting themselves to the point of fun. We know the drill. How do we begin to kind of figure out ways to make sure that our kids are really getting a chance to play, engage in the world around them, while still keeping them on a healthy path in regards to what they eat, how they sleep, and how they live?
I love that you mentioned that. You know, you're absolutely right. Being active during the summer is such a major part of childhood, and you are outside for long hours, and they're sweating a lot. They're burning a lot of calories, just like you said. But with all that in mind, you know, you're right there with them most of the time, and so are you. And so it's important to keep that health and wellness top of mind. Some ways to do that, you know, are some tips. We in our family, we love to keep water bottles right next to the front door. So in the mornings when we're headed out that door, we grab and go, because staying hydrated is going to be one of the best and biggest things you can do for yourself this summer, and especially with the kids. No one wants anyone getting dehydrated, because that's no good. So you want to keep that as a tip for sure. Another thing that we love to do is we try to get in one nutrient-dense meal at least a day. So I'm talking a lot of protein, a lot of veggies, just something that we know we're filling ourselves up with the fuel that we need to keep going during the day. And then when you have those treats, those ice cream, or you stop for brownies or whatever, you know, you love or your family loves, you know that you've gotten in some really good things in your system and in the kids' bodies, right, during the day. And I think the third thing is, you know, just making sure that when you are out and about, you've packed a bag. So I think that's and I'm sure the truck drivers, right, I'm sure they know all about that. Just having those really healthy snacks on hand, nutrient-dense snacks on hand, you know, so you're not always reaching for something not so great for us. You want to reach for things that have great ingredients that you can really stand behind and that you feel good eating.
Okay, this is kind of a fun question, because there are a lot of people who often try to solve their dietary problems, and it's not a bad approach with what they call the same meal on a different day. They have like a certain number of nutrient-dense kind of meals that they eat. One of the issues with kids is the fact that you want to give them both. Okay, so follow me on this and tell me if I get this right. It's a trifecta, nutrient-dense meal. You want to make sure that there's enough variety in what you serve on a every other day to make sure that the kids don't get bored with it. Like, we're going to have that again, while at the same time, as a parent, not having to make so many different meals over the course of the week to make sure that they're nutrient dense. How do you create that sweet spot of balance between healthy, easy for you to kind of complete and do, while at the same time giving the kids enough variety not to get bored with? Do you dig?
Oh, my goodness, do I dig? I know firsthand exactly everything that you're saying. I live it, I breathe it. So you go over to thecoolmom.co, that's first of all, because we have tons of recipes and tips on how you can make this happen. And I'm going to tell you, this is what we do in this house. When we're talking about nutrient-dense meal, you want a protein, you want veggie, you might have a small carb, but you mix and match. So, for my husband and I, we love rice bowls, we love veggie bowls, right, where we'll put, salmon and veggies and fresh garden things kind of all in a plate. But for my kids, they're not always into that, but we'll turn theirs into maybe a salmon taco. Maybe we'll add a tortilla so they can, add a taco to it. Or maybe they like more rice, right? They might do a rice bowl so it makes it a little bit more fun and they can put sauces on top. It's about being flexible, but all within your framework, right? So you're not making 3 different meals for 3 different kids plus for you and your spouse. You're making one meal that everybody can put together how they see fit differently.
The thing that always interests me, too, is about this game is that what you don't want to do, because kids are burning up. If kids are actually active, if they're out there playing Little League, if you have to get them off to the next lesson, the next activity, they are burning a lot of calories, which means they can eat a lot of garbage and get away with it for a while. Mm-hmm. But this is really about developing healthy eating habits early. So when, as inevitably happens, unless they become either pro athletes or so active that they're like, doing marathons, you want to make sure that when they get older and their metabolism slow down, they're not having eating habits that are going to quickly accelerate them into all kind of the later life problems so many people have a problem with. So how do you make sure that you give your kids a nice mix of, oh, that was fun, an ice cream, but at the same time that's a treat, not a lifestyle?
That's right. This is the time where we're teaching our kids. So we're modeling behavior for them. And this is what I remind my husband all the time, too, in this house. What we put into our bodies, they're watching us. The eyes are on us. So really it's about, yes, having those treats. This is a part of childhood. Ice cream, come on. The ice cream truck, all these things, donuts. It's all a part of childhood. So don't skimp there, but know that it is a treat. It isn't something that we need all day, every day. It's a specialty, right? It's something that we can go to have fun. But during the day, make sure that we do include a lot of those nutrient kind of snacks. So I partnered up with CVS this summer, and I'm very proud to, because they have over 200 varieties in their Well Market line of snacks that are health and kind of wellness nutrient focused, which is awesome. Some of my favorites are like these freeze-dried fruit raspberry infused apples that are awesome because one serving is equal to 1 cup of fruit, which those are the choices that you want to see that your kids are making, right, throughout the day, especially when they're burning those calories and things like that. You just want to feed them as much good stuff as possible, making sure that they're hydrated. There's a great electrolyte water that Well Market has that I absolutely love, It's about getting those electrolytes in. And so, making sure that you provide them with healthy snacks, great options that hydrate their body is going to be super important during these summer months.
By the way, as I kind of go through talking with our new friend Lizzy Mathis, and you can find out all about her at thecoolmom.co. And by the way, take the time to actually go over to her About page as well, too. It's a really great story, really wonderful story. I actually had planned to ask you the question, water is a great foundation. And by the way, having him at the door is a terrific strategy. My mom actually used to do that, and another friend of mine who I used to hang out with, his mom and my mom would have water bottles at the front, and they had Kenworth dispensers in the back under the carport, which often made a difference. My mom
That's
said
great.
the only thing that she wished had existed back then in more bigger forms was powder packs to put in there to also, because hydration is the foundation, but you've also got to make sure that you're restoring stuff like electrolytes and all of that as well. It's all those little details that make the difference, right?
That's right. You're absolutely right. It is. It's all those details. What you can't find sometimes if you don't have fruit nearby. Look, watermelon holds a lot of water, and so does a lot of other summer fruits. But if you don't always have those nearby, these packets, these electrolyte waters and kind of powders that you can add, that you can pick up anywhere, especially at any CVS in your neighborhood, these sort of things are going to be helpful for you because they're going to give you those instant boosts, right? When your kid is finished with that sports game and they're exhausted and they've sweated so much. And hey, let's just mention too, when you were sweating out there waiting for them, watching them in the sun and the heat too, you're going to want the electrolyte water as well to refuel yourself as well.
I want to ask this question because, by the way, a lot of our listeners out there, over-the-road truck drivers, are going to bring these tips back home to their family. But in case you guys are paying attention out there, you probably notice a lot of this stuff really applies to you guys as well. If you do the same things that Lizzy's kids are doing, you're probably going to be in pretty good shape. I wanted to ask you, Lizzy, how does it happen, though? How does this get ahead of folks? Look, being a parent is a full-time job, and when both parents have full-time jobs, it gets even harder than that. How does it slip away from people? Give us examples of where the slip starts to happen and they start to kind of miss making this happen for their kids, and how to stop that from happening once it starts.
Of course. I think it really starts to happen as it happens to all of us. So I want to make that clear, too. This is something that we all go through. This is a universal thing that we have, on our journey as parents and just active people, is that we don't always plan ahead. And so that's going to cause us more kind of stress down the line than if we just make a couple of easy flips and changes and keep a couple of tips in mind. It's going to go really far for us. So what I mean by that is, when we forget to add those water bottles to the front door, or when we forget to get those, great snacks and have them in the car or in our sports bags or summer bags, that means that we're going to stop and get fast food. We're going to pick up whatever's convenient in the moment. We're going to kind of tend to go towards choices that aren't always the greatest for us in our wellness journey. And so those are when the cracks and the slips starts to happen. But if we just make those slight adjustments, having a snack pack ready to go, packing food kind of the morning of or the night before to have in a cooler in the car, are great options, right? Because then you're not necessarily stopping for fast food. You're just grabbing that sandwich that you already have and that you've packed. So having some of these kind of tips and tricks in mind before you start your day or before you start your weekend are always going to be better for you in the long run.
It's interesting, too, because you're working with CVS, so they don't have the same problem. And I'm not picking, and I won't say any other names here. There are bulk stores out there, and one of the great dangers of a bulk store is that you buy a supercalifragilisticexpialidocious sized box of ice cream bars. Do you recommend, like I said, even when you're buying stuff like ice cream bars, if you have 3 kids, as you have, getting a pack with 6 bars is probably the way you should max it out, and you shouldn't even think about buying any more until that box is empty. I know a lot of people want to, as parents, stock up on a lot of stuff, but this is a genuine question. Should you avoid, even when you're buying in bulk, to avoid buying junk in bulk, the treats in bulk? Is that something you should really avoid doing?
Unless you're having a party, a barbecue, a pool hang, a get-together where bulk makes sense, then yes. If it's just for you and your family, I think it's always safe to buy the more junk kind of food items in limited quantities, because then you won't reach for them as long and as often, right? If you have a whole, like you said, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious box size of ice cream bars, you're going to eat all those ice cream bars for the next month.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right? So I think that, you're absolutely right. It's about buying, but you know what? It's about buying intentionally, Jimmy, too, right? It's about buying with what you really hold as important for you and your family. And right now, we know more than ever, health and wellness has to be top of mind. It really does, because We don't want our kids getting sick during the summer. We don't want to get sick during the summer. So you want to make sure we're putting really good stuff in our body. And those are the things that you want to buy more in higher quantities.
This is an odd question. I'm actually going to bring up the topic of fast food because you talked about avoiding it. I'm a big fan of process when it comes to football, when it comes to baseball, and all that kind of following the numbers, following the metrics. Some of the best football teams in the country often have their first 25 to 30 plays scripted, and I'm wondering if it behooves parents who are taking road trips, who occasionally stop on fast food stops, to maybe make a list that they have. I mean, there are apps available for this to kind of look at the healthiest options so that the kids get their occasional treat, but at the same time that the parents are. Does it really help to keep up with the caloric sizes on the things that kids consume at fast food? I mean, is that something that you should keep up with and monitor when you go through the drive-thru? And every once in a while somebody says, hey, we want to get this thing, we love this thing, and you say, okay, we love you too, we're going to do this once. But how do you keep up with that? How do you make sure, once again, as my mom used to say, that is a treat, that is not our diet?
That's absolutely right. I mean, listen, let's be honest. Let's keep it really real as parents. There are going to be times when you have no other choice because you are on your way to a soccer game in another county or another city, or you're on a road trip, or, you're on your way to go visit grandma and grandpa who live, a state over. There are going to be times where you have to stop and get fast food, and it's okay. Take the pressure off of yourself. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not hurting your kids. You're not a bad parent because of it. But you just can't make it a habit. That can't be your go-to all the time. It can't be your after-dinner late-night meal as well as your road trip meal as well as your weekend fun meal. Choose your moments. Be intentional about when you choose to do it. Listen, it's going to be hard to keep up with calories all the time with what a kid eats throughout a whole day. But as long as you're choosing healthier ingredients that do have less ingredients in them, they're not over-processed, right? So we're talking things that don't have a whole long laundry list of ingredients when you look on the back of the pack. As long as you're keeping those top of mind and those are the things that you're choosing, then that's a better option. And when and if you do have to stop at these fast food places, you're right. Take a look at the menu. Really assess. And there are plenty of apps out there, even if you do a quick Google search on, what are some healthy options for kids in your area or in the areas that you're going to, you might find that there might be a turkey sandwich somewhere over, a fried chicken sandwich. Who knows, but there are choices that we all can make. And I think it's just about being a little bit more prepared.
I want to bring this up too in light of CVS because there's a lot of places out there that are the equivalent of a food desert. You walk in there and boy, the shelves are packed, but they are packed with absolutely destructive stuff. Some of which I just call styrofoam with food seasoning on it. I have noticed at places like CVS, however, that there are lots of bags of nuts. There are in fact healthy sandwiches, the kind of pre-made ones that are in the bottom of the shelf and all that kind of stuff. What can parents do in regards to engaging with stores like CVS to kind of understand that they can find the healthier options inside of a place like that to really kind of make a difference in their kids' lives?
Well, one, check it out. Like, make sure when you stop into your CVS next time, look around. Take a glance because you'll be surprised what you see. CVS has really doubled down on a lot of varieties, over 200 varieties in their well-market category for snacks. That keep this top of mind. One of my favorites is the Well-Market pretzel twists. They're gluten-free. They're really flavorful with everything, bagel seasonings, right? But they're also free of the top 9 allergens. And those are things that you're not going to be able to catch, right? That's amazing right there alone. So it's also just paying attention. Look on the back of the bag. Look at what the ingredients are. If it's a long list of ingredients, pass. Choose something else. But it's nice to know that places like CVS have the options for us because honestly, I think that, in years past, it just hasn't been accessible to us. So now that places like CVS is on every corner in every neighborhood, right? There are options that are available to us that we can now choose from. So don't be blind to that. Just take a look, and see what's out there. I think another great way is to do some online shopping. If you don't have time to necessarily go into the stores, check out the CVS app or online at cvs.com/summer, right? Those are places where you can find some online options ahead of time, and you can see and kind of do a little research while you're laying in bed at night or while you're taking some alone time, just to kind of prep yourself and kind of see what is even available to you that your family might love.
The other, and by the way, now you got me so excited, I'm actually sharing my own tips here, is the fact that I have what I call a foundational shopping list that I actually make a photocopy of, that I always know there are certain things that I am going to need when I go to the store to make sure that I'm not like ever forgetting anything, and then build on top of that. And I was kind of curious about how we manage time, because one of the things that always ends up happening, especially when we start this adventure, we were at the grocery store the other day, my two producers and I, trying to get some food and snacks over here at the studio. We all were reading the back of cereal boxes intently, looking for protein content, looking to minimize sugar content. And I was kind of curious to, the idea of how does one actually, in a busy schedule, get in and out of the grocery store while at the same time not rushing through and picking up the worst and the least possible desirable objects from the store.
Well, one, I love that you said, about your list. I call mine my massive checklist. You call yours your foundational checklist. So I love yours better. Your wording is much better than mine, let me tell you. But I think the beautiful part about it is, Jimmy, is that we are creatures of habit in many ways, right? So the beautiful part about it is that once you find the products that you really love, take the time sometimes to look on the back. You and your colleagues, you did a great job. You did exactly what you're supposed to do. Read the back of the package. It may take a little bit of time the first time, but if you don't understand the ingredients in there, pass on them. Look for the ones that you know what's in there. It meets all your criteria. Grab those. But then the next time you go, you already know what to grab. You know exactly what's on your list. You know exactly the ones that works for you and your family. So it's not something that you have to do all the time long term. It will at some point become muscle memory, where you can just grab the brands and the products that you know are right for you.
Okay, this is a fun question, by the way, and not one that I planned on asking, but my wife and I, because she has certain dietary conditions and needs, we've become big fans of carrots and hummus. Big fans of that. So what I was kind of curious about is, how do we introduce our kids, anybody out there, to the adventure of trying new things? Because there's a lot of stuff that you and I really dig that I'm sure kids go, bleh. And how do we make sure that how do we do that? How do you actually sit your children down and say, look, mom and dad like this. You might not be crazy about it because of the way it looks or what it sounds like. How do we introduce our kids to better eating options when so much of their peers, so much of their school actually says, no, it's okay. You get those chicken fingers and French fries. You're good. What do we do?
Well, first of all, if you have teenagers like me, then you don't say mom and dad like them. That's first of all. That's where you go wrong. So don't start off with that. What it's about, what we do here is we leave it out. We introduce it, we leave it out. So, for instance, when my kids are at camp, they come back, they're hungry, they're starving, they're famished, all the things. I'll have carrots, hummus, cucumber, celery, olives, pickles. I'll have a whole array of crackers that I feel good about, right? I'll have all those things out and about, dried fruit. I'll have some of these snacks from Well Market, these pretzel chips and things like that. I'll have them all out in kind of like a charcuterie board. And when you present it in a charcuterie board way where they feel like, oh my goodness, I can just go and indulge and like dive in and eat whatever I want, you don't mind, because all of it is healthy. All of it is good choices. And so in that moment, they come back and they want to grab it. They want to grab and go. But now we've introduced things that they may have not picked in the refrigerator themselves, or if you put it on a dinner plate, they may not want to eat. But now they're tasting it. Now they're enjoying it. Now they see, oh, okay, I don't mind that. I don't mind that carrot and hummus. I don't mind that, homemade ranch dip and cucumber or celery. And so those are just kind of fun ways to introduce it into their diet.
My producer is a health nut and in incredible shape. He actually has a question he wants to ask you really quickly, Lizzy.
So real quick, so you're saying I'm spoiled the fact that my girlfriend's 2 kids crave cucumber, tomatoes, hummus, spinach artichoke dip, white rice, and then anytime I try to introduce anything else, they're like looking at me like I'm a Nazi.
So basically, Dre has actually hit the mother load in regards to being in kids, getting kids to actually try new stuff is what you're telling me, right? I mean, that's kind of it, right?
They love it already.
Listen, you've hit a gold mine. I'm here to tell you. And you know what it means? It means that she's made some really good choices. That's what it means. Exactly. It means that she's created some really great habits. And that's what I think we're trying to impart today, right? You follow really great habits, and your kids will follow suit.
One of the things I want to tell people, if you go to the coolmom.co, you're going to find, too, it's not just Lizzy who's a cool mom. There are shout-outs to a whole bunch of cool moms over there as well. And by the way, Lizzy, you should come out with a brand of crackers called Lizzy Mathis's Crackers I Feel Good About. That is one of the most peak statements I've ever heard in my life, because that's an important thing, too, is that people want texture. And people often forget it doesn't have to be some giant sodium square. There are so many alternatives to giving people crunchy, a crunchy snack that doesn't just drop a ton of sodium on them, right?
You're absolutely right, Jimmy. If I could tell you how many times I've gone through these aisles and have looked at these crackers, it's like that's what you want the most is something crunchy, and sometimes it's so hard to find with good ingredients. But you're absolutely right. I'm going to work on that. Jimmy, that's my summer goal. Crackers I feel good about.
I think it's great. Lizzy Mathis's Crackers I Feel Good About. I feel good about talking with Lizzy Mathis, but you're not going to believe this. We're almost out of time. We're down to about 2 minutes here. I just want to give you a chance to tell people where they can find you, what the mission is, and give you a chance to wrap this up on your own terms, Lizzy.
Oh, thanks, Jimmy. I really appreciate it, and it's been so fun talking to you. So you can find me at Lizzy Mathis on Instagram. You can also head over to thecoolmom.co, that's thecoolmom.co, for all those lifestyle, family tips and tricks and anything that you need really pertaining to motherhood and family. And also those dads out there, you'll find some important information as well. And then, of course, head over to cvs.com/summer for all those really great deals that you can find that we've talked about today. I think that's what it's about. I just want to tell everyone, have fun this summer. It's not about holding back. It's about diving in. Family is so important. Enjoy the time that we have. Enjoy those beautiful days. And make sure that you keep health and wellness top of mind.
Lizzy, before I let you go, I want to tell you something really quickly. Somebody actually explained to my mother what intermittent fasting was one day, and she said, "Oh, you mean me saying the kitchen's closed?" And it hit me like a ton of bricks. That's all intermittent fasting is. Mom at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening after dinner saying, "Kitchen's closed. Don't go in it. We're done here." Thank you, Lizzy, so much. You're a terrific mom and a terrific guest. We hope to get you back on sometime.
I'd love to come back. Thanks, Jimmy.